Hi, everybody. So, as I promised, we are going to do a Bible study. It's going to be a short Bible study from Joseph's life, and we go one step at a time. And we start in Genesis 37. We'll start with the first verses, will be from 1 to 10, and that reflects Joseph's dreams. All right, let's keep going. So, Joseph dreams. So, first, who is Joseph? Right. So Joseph is the son of Jacob. Okay. Um. All right. So, uh, first verse. So we are in Genesis 37, first verse. Jacob lived. So it's talking about Joseph's father. So Jacob is Joseph's father. All right. Jacob lived in the land where his father has stayed, the land of Canaan. Verse 2. This is the account of Jacob's family line. Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending the flocks with his brothers, the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, and he brought their father a bad report about them. All right, so let's see, so Jacob had actually four wives. Let's go a little bit back about in the life of Jacob, what happened. So Jacob went to the land where his parents came from, like his mother Rebecca, and went to Laban, which was Rebecca's brother. So um, So goes to the land when Laban was living. It was his uncle. And he sees this girl, beautiful girl. Her name was Rachel. He fell in love with her immediately. He loved her so much and was Laban's daughter. But Rachel was the youngest one. Laban had two daughters, Leah and Rachel. And but he loved Rachel. So I think it's a man thing. I don't know. When you love somebody, and it's what you want. So he went and asked for her hand in marriage. And Laban say, okay, you will have Rachel for your wife if you work 7 years for me, tending the sheep, the flocks. And because of so much love for Rachel, he agreed. And when after 7 years, he reminds Laban, his uncle, that this is the time, 7 years passed, and he worked very hard in Laban's uh, land, tending the flocks for little pay. And he said, okay, but as we don't know who Laban, was, nothing like Rebecca, like the sister, he tricked him. I think in Jewish marriage, the uh, bride to be, she has to cover her face um, with like a scarf, like they do it right now. They do it these days as well. But you can see her face through it. But this one probably couldn't see her face. So Laban tricked him and instead gave him Leah. Now, he found that he, tricked him, and he already married her. I think the veil came out of her face after, um, when they got married, and he trusted Laban, but he tricked him. Um, in their culture, I'm not sure, like in my culture in Romania, we have, and then always we knew that if, so Rachel was the youngest one, Leah was the older one. So you have to marry in certain culture, say like in my culture is the same. I'm not sure right now, but in old time, you have to get the older daughter to get married before the younger one, because if the younger one gets married first, there's a chance that the older one will never get married. Um, and they call it more like a curse. Like if the younger one gets married first, the other one will never get married. But I don't know if that's true or not. But in this case, probably is in the culture. They knew that Leah was old enough, and we didn't want her to be too old to. Let me turn my phone off. Last time it was getting situations here with the phone. Um, so they didn't want Leah to be home with the father, not getting married, while the younger one gets married first. And it's a shame. It was a shame in that time not to get married and not to have children. So, but if you would tell Jacob, Jacob would say, "No way, I'm not going to. I want to get the one that you promised, the one that I love." But now he got tricked. He got Leah um, as his wife, and Laban say, "Okay, so that's pretty much work for Leah. Now you have to work 7 more years to get Rachel." Because you see that whenever um, Jacob's uh, Jacob's hands were on, things got prosperous, everything went well. He didn't have to worry about that, and also he Jacob got paid little money till everything turns around in his favor. But he goes back with Rachel and Leah to the land that God promised them, the land of Canaan, and he has several children with Leah. He has 2 children with uh, Rachel, his love of his life, which the first one was Joseph, and the younger brother of Joseph was Benjamin. And he also, in that time, you could marry as many um, as you want if you can keep up with all these wives. But and he married um, 2 more wives. One was Bilhah, and the other one is in the story is Jilpah. So in total he had 4 wives. Now the so Joseph had several other brothers. We call them half brothers because they were from the same father but had different mothers. And now go back in the story when in verse 2, when he says that Joseph tending the flocks with his brothers, which is half brothers, and of course his brothers are much much older because Leah, imagine that the one married Leah, and then Jacob married Rachel 7 years after. So in 7 years, she had several children with Jacob, sons. And so Joseph, he goes with them and the older one, and uh, then brought their father a bad report about them, which, okay, that one did this, the one like telling on them, and um, and their brother didn't like that. I just say for now, like your younger brother tells you, I'm telling on you, you're smoking, you're drinking, you have lots of women or whatever, like imagine those bad reports goes to their father's ears, and he did that. Um, I thought probably it's sometimes it's good to just to save their skin, but I don't think they liked it. Now, on the top of that, um, now Israel, now Israel is Jacob in verse 3. Now Israel loved Joseph. Israel is Jacob's name because God changed his name from Jacob, which is called treachery, like tricking you with things, um, and changed his name to Israel. And usually when the name gets changed, like the people that carry such a bad name, like even the last name, they don't go well for them. So God changed his name. So his name was pretty much Israel. Um, and want to bless him. So now Israel, which is Jacob, loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he had been born to him in his old age. And not just that, because he was Rachel's son and he was born first. Imagine after 14 years, you're tending those sheep like for your like uncle's sheep, and then they give you the wages are so poor, and trick Jacob on that and give him less. And for 14 years, it's not like 1 year or 2 years, it's not 14 months, guys, it's 14 years. And then finally they got Rachel and they got Joseph. That was the love of his life. And he loved him more than any of his other sons. Why? First, he was born much later, and it was from Rachel. And then he had been different. And he could tell he was, God picked him. He was different than anybody else. And he loved that. Whenever we have just a glimpse of heaven in him, I think, is what it was. And also in verse 3, and he made, like Jacob made an ornate robe for him. Ornate, I think we used to say like a robe with a multicolor. And as you can see in the picture, uh, which probably is rare, more expensive, um, but we call it the robe with many colors. And it's how we sometimes we define Jacob, because his father wanted him to be different, to stand up above everybody else. In verse 4, when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. So the father, so they knew how they knew the father loved Jacob more than anybody else, any of them, because he made that robe. Didn't make for anybody else, but made for him. And then he stood up, as you can see, above everybody else. He stood up above everybody else. And why? Because in him you couldn't find pride. In the other ones, if you put a robe like that, the pride would go up on the roof. But on Joseph, there was no pride in him. He was still, he felt he was loved, and he needed, probably that time, he needed to know that the father loves him very much. But it turned to have, because of that robe, now the half brothers, they know that Jacob is loves more Joseph, and now it becomes Joseph enemies. Like they hated him because the love of their father was more for him than to them. So have you encountered something like that when somebody makes a favor or give you something and you stand up above everybody else, maybe at your workplace, maybe in your family like Joseph, maybe, I don't know, anywhere else, maybe in the church, I don't know, whenever uh, you get a gift or you get something like it makes you stand up, um, and people get jealous. They get jealous that it looks good on you, or something else, not necessary clothing, but um, you get well, you do better, um, and people they love you because your personality or who you are, because you are from God, and God sparkled that special thing on you, and you stand up above everybody else, and people start to hate you for that. And I says even in these days, doesn't have to be with the clothing, or it could be for something else, with something else, and then instead of them getting promoted, you get promoted because you stand up, you did the job, you did good work. So it happened today and in our real life here. All right, let's keep going. Verse 5. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. Now, because he had nobody around, there were just the brother and the father and the parents, of course. So he had all these brothers, older brothers, and he's dreaming, and he knows his dream is something more than just a dream, is something that stands up. So when you dream dreams, you know there is that specific dream that pops out in your head um, when you wake up, and you know that's something specific. God will not give, will make emphasis on that specific dream, and you know it's something is going to come, and um, something is going to happen. It's not just a, like they call a pizza dream. It's not just a pizza dream. It's a real thing. God was talking to Joseph through dreams, and specific dreams stood out for him, and he studied those at that young age. He studied them, and his relation with God was strong. He probably was asking what I meant, and God is, this is very significant, and God is actually telling, this is you don't have to be a specialist in uh, interpreting the dreams, because this actually really stands out. But he didn't have nowhere to say, and he said to his brothers, he could keep it for himself, but he was young and immature. um, I learned from in my own, sometimes I regret for some dreams I said it out, and not just that, the enemy heard it, and it turned it on the bad way. So we have to be careful what we share and who we share with, especially dreams, because sometimes the enemy goes behind the scene and work against us. That make sure that that is probably a part of our destiny is not going to happen. The spiritual entities, what they do, they work behind um, the scenes, and they make sure that that specific dream will not come to pass. And look in the life of Joseph, we learn this, and I learn from my own experiences. So I try not to say it loud when I have dreams, neither when I'm talking to people, because I say there's an unseen round with evil spirits that they catch on that specific dreams, and they go to destroy it, make sure that doesn't happen. And for a time, and so it what just happened to Joseph. First, he his brothers, half brothers, hated him a lot more, much more than when he got the coat. They hated him. Now he hated him more. So let's see about the dream. Listen to this dream I had. We were binding shelves of grain, sheaves, that was the sheaves of grain, out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, rose above, like you see in the pictures, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. Wow. Imagine to say this dream. They hated him first. And now it says the dream that he stood up, and then God it puts with the time what they had, with the grains they gather and all that. That would be more understanding for Joseph, and he understood what it was. But he's sharing with his brother that already hated him, which now became his enemies, probably number one enemies. And these brothers, her brothers, they were not like Joseph. They were hatreds. Uh, Probably I say that they did bad things. That Joseph went and tell to the father, and then I say there's lots going on there. Now it tells the dream that he is the one in the middle, and everybody bows down to him. Wow. So verse 8, his brothers say to him, do you intend to reign over us? Even then they understood the dream. And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Wow. Okay, now the enemy got double anger and hatred around them. Let's go next. Wow. Verse 9. Then he had another dream and he told it to his brothers. Listen, he said, I had another dream, and this time the sun. Now he told he had another dream told to his brothers. First, he's sharing with his brothers his dream, his thing, like whenever he's dreaming. Listen, he said, I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me. Wow. 11 stars, because with him there are like 12 tribes of Israel. So he had to write the number. The number was right. Wow. So sun is the father, Jacob. Moon, the mother, Rachel. 11 stars, his brothers. And all they bow down to him. Now I'm not sure how you see it in the dream, that bowing down from the star. I mean, how you make a son to bow down and how he saw it, but he knew it. He knew what it meant, and they were just bowing down to him. But represents pretty much his family. And verse 10, when he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, what is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you? Wow. I know. Sometimes you can get in trouble with having dreams and sharing them with people that they don't understand and don't know, instead of lifting you up. And but I say that was it was different situation in the house, so they gathered more hate. These brothers were like hating him, and it says like his dreams had like he's going to rule over us. Wow, imagine. And now, verse 11, his brothers were jealous of him, but his father, now he shared with the father and he says, like, what is this dream of yours? Um, but his father knew was something more with Joseph because he was different. I say his character, his is the way who he was. He was, I say, it was had a glimpse of heaven in him. Um, his brother were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. He was still thinking like whether in the future my son Joseph will be um, somebody else and um, will be like in this time just say a president of the United States, for example. If somebody has like a dream like this time, it's like, wow, will my son will be a president of the United States, or maybe in different country, or maybe in different country where they have kings, it's gonna be a king. Wow, what is with this dream? So Jacob was keeping this matter in his mind. What is going to be out of Joseph? He knew it's going to be something more, but he didn't know what it's going to be. He didn't like the idea that he and his wife will bow down to him, but he was keeping all this, what the dream story was saying, in his mind, thinking about those. Wow. All right, we are to the end of this specific Bible study. And it's gonna be like, as you say, it's not the end of it. It's gonna be continue with next one, and we'll continue till we finish all the way through the life of Joseph. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy it. Till we see you next time, I say goodbye. Goodbye now.